Are you the kind of person that's afraid of change? Do you think that all modern day cars are far too complicated and that everything was better in the olden days? If that's the case, then this might just be the vehicle for you. Ineos Grenadier. Look familiar? Yeah, it looks quite a lot like the Land Rover Defender, doesn't it? The Land Rover Defender was in constant production for well over 6 decades, until a few years ago, Jaguar Land Rover made the difficult decision to stop producing the classic off-roader. Well, one night, British billionaire and petrochemical company owner Jim Ratcliffe, Sir Jim Ratcliffe I should say, was in his favourite pub, the Grenadier, in Belgravia in London. He was talking with his friends about this. He was really annoyed. He loves the Defender. He thinks it's the perfect off-road machine, symbol of Britain, to be celebrated. So anyway, back to Jim Ratcliffe. He was upset that Jaguar Land Rover were going to stop making the Defender. And he was in his favourite pub, and he said one night, well, why don't we just make a Defender? Why doesn't my company, Ineos, make a Defender? And that is how the Grenadier, which was the name of the pub they were in, came to be. It took well over 3 years to develop the car, go through the process of designing their own version of the Defender. It is, to be clear, not a Defender that's been modernized. This is a new vehicle. It just shares a lot, and I do mean a lot, of visual DNA with the Defender. So here we have it, the Ineos Grenadier. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I'm going to say something now that I hoped I wouldn't have to say. And that is that unfortunately I find Grenadier a little bit underwhelming on road. Now obviously the original Defender's natural habitat was never on road, right? It was made for agricultural use primarily. No one in their right mind would wantonly drive one of the old Defenders on the road for pleasure. That wasn't a pleasurable experience. You simply drove it from agricultural space to agricultural space. And with the Grenadier, they set out with the ambition of making an updated Defender. Well, they kind of have done that, but that means that a lot of the Defender's road characteristics, for me at least, prevail. The steering, there's so much play in the wheel and so much rotation. The ratio is incredible. You can turn this wheel, I don't know, 18 or 1900 times seemingly before you find the lock. Look at this, which again is like an old school Defender, right? So it's charming, but on the road, it's very hard to keep the car in a straight line. There's a lot of play in the wheel. You end up making lots of micro adjustments and swerving around a little bit as a result, at which point the fact that this is a body on frame car and it's quite top heavy comes into play, and you do end up getting quite a lot of lean and body roll, which is a little disconcerting from time to time. There's no blind spot detection. You can't see anything out of the rear mirror because there's a full-size spare in the way, and the power from the inline 6-litre turbocharged BMW engine is not great. 281 horsepower and 333 pound-feet of torque sounds okay. It's quite slushy. It'll get up to highway speeds, but trying to overtake is a lengthy and drawn-out process. Now, again, I'm going to caveat all of that by saying it's not really what this vehicle's raison d'etre was, right? This vehicle, as with the Defender, was all about being able to get out there. And look, we've made it out here. We're out on the trails. This is where the Ineos Grenadier should show its true colours. Now, it's interesting. That very point that I was just lamenting the Grenadier for, steering, actually comes into its own here. And I think that was probably part of the reason why the steering feels the way it does. Because off-road, where you're having to make lots of miniature adjustments, or rather the wheels are making lots of miniature adjustments underneath the body of the car as they're traversing all these rocks and cracks and crevices, and that obviously transfers up through the steering wheel. Well, they don't want this much of a rotation to result in you flying off into that bush over there, right? So look, I've got all of this movement, And this can go both ways. It can be me moving the wheels or the wheels moving the steering wheel. And look, I'm still basically tracking straight. So that's a good thing. Again, the power, nice and torquey. Now we're out on the off-road, you can feel the benefit.
At MotorTrend, we're always looking for new ways to push vehicles to their limits, not just on the road, but on all kinds of incredible off-road trails. From rock crawling to multi-day overland adventures, we use onX Off-Road from start to finish, and even when stuff goes sideways. No cell reception? No problem. Just download a detailed base map before you set off, and onX Off-Road's GPS will keep track of where you've been and where you're going. For land use boundaries, places of interest, thousands of trails graded by difficulty, and more, we use onX Off-Road every time we get out into the field. If you want to discover places like the ones we explored today, scan the QR code or click the link in the bio to learn more about onX Off-Road.
What else can I tell you? Well, the interior. I've got a big screen here, but one of the things that does frustrate me, and this isn't exclusive to the Grenadier, but Ineos have fallen into this trap, is that the screen is not angled at all toward the driver. It's flush, it's straight, and that means that I'm getting screen glare from that window back there 150% of the time. It's so frustrating because half the time I'm having to do this to check where I'm going. So, there we are. But otherwise, I quite like the interior with one exception, and that is this. This BMW shifter is unforgivable. Whether it was something that BMW insisted on, I don't know why they would, but hey, who knows? It certainly couldn't have been laziness on Ineos's part, because that would be foolish. They've spent so much time clearly crafting an interior that is unique. This is their first vehicle, remember. Even though they're loosely basing it on the Defender, they of course want this vehicle to feel like an Ineos. At the end of the day, they, I'm sure, have aspirations to expand their model lineup. They already have the Quartermaster, the truck version, but I'm sure that in the future they'll have more vehicles. And they've done great work in here, with the exception of this BMW shifter. It just genuinely makes me angry every time I see it. It makes me really frustrated. It would be the first thing I would change. That and adding a roof rack. There's no roof rack on this model, despite it being the Trailmaster off-road version, despite it having the optional ladder. What is the point in having the optional ladder if you can't also have a roof rack at the same time? They should be one and the same, surely. The interior is nicely decked out. This is the Trailmaster variant, which is the slightly more rugged version with cloth seats. We do have an optional leather package up here on the dashboard, but for the most part it's sort of wipe down friendly. I like the positioning. I like that there isn't a gauge cluster here. We've just got a little screen for my various warning messages and things of that nature. I like that we've got this great big panel up here, of course, reminiscent of a plane. They know the market they're going for, don't they? Ultimately, it's the kind of slick, off-road, maybe overland kind of James Bond, sycophants loving all of the kind of ruggedness and, oh, I drive a updated Defender, you know? But I fall into that trap. I'd have one of these. It's so cool. So, Ineos, Sir Jim, and all of his team set out to bring to market a modern-day Defender. Now, have they succeeded? You'd have to say, yes, they have succeeded, because this is a modern-day Defender, quirks and all. The question you'll have to ask yourself is it worth the price? This one that I'm driving, it's around $85,000, which is a lot of money. But then again, if you're going to use it, utilitarian vehicle on a farm or a building site, then I could plausibly see you buying one of these. You'll just have to accept that your drives to and from the construction site or the farm might not be as carefree and relaxing as they would be in something like the new Defender. The unfortunate truth is that Jaguar Land Rover made the decision to end the production of the Defender because they felt times had moved on. They felt that people wanted something more out of their utility vehicles. Is this a vehicle I would do hundreds and hundreds of miles in? probably not. It would be a tiresome experience. But here, well, I've had a wonderful time in the Ineos, I've got to say.